Hey there crew, it's Mark and it is officially time to set up our new bullet journal for the new year. I'm excited for this one because I'll be trying things a little bit different this year. Where over the past 5 years I've used my Archer and Olive notebook, this year I'm going to be setting up a brand new bullet journal inside of Hemlock and Oak. I did an entire review video comparing the two different notebooks together, coming to the conclusion on why I'm picking this notebook. I'm super excited for the grids. I love that there's already page numbers, and I really enjoy how this paper is handling different type of materials so far. So our first step in setting up a new journal is we're actually going to use a worksheet that I have as a free downloadable for you over on my website at markyourpages.com. We're going to break things down into our wants, our needs, and our don't wants. I would say from a want perspective, I really want a notebook that can handle almost anything that I'm going to throw at it. One of the big reasons that I'm moving away from Archer and Olive, at least for now, is I really want to use my fountain pens, and I don't like the way that Archer and Olive paper currently is handling a lot of the fountain pens that I'm using. So I wanted to try something a bit different. So that's really the biggest want. Now, when it comes to needs, there's some really important things that my previous bullet journal, from a layout standpoint, wasn't fully doing for me. I think the biggest thing for my needs is a really clean and easy way for me to manage my future log. So this past year, I actually created these big calendar pages with the full calendar look on here, and I really felt like this is going to be it for me. I was taking a lot of what I've learned from previous notebooks and bringing them into this one, but what I found is that it took up a lot of pages, and I don't know that I necessarily use them to their fullest potential. I was writing things down in there, I was looking at them, but I wasn't using it as much. So I want to dial that back a little bit because I still need that as a part of my setup, but I don't need it to that extent. The other thing that I absolutely need in this notebook, since it is new to me, is going to be a resource for my page layouts. Now, I have a cheat sheet that I've been using inside of all of my previous notebooks, and because this Hemlock and Oak is new to me, I need to do the same thing. So I'm also going to be creating one of those cheat guides in the back of this notebook as a resource page so I can easily find what I need when I need it to quickly and easily lay out my pages. The only thing that I can really say that I don't want this year is a lot of pages for those future logs, where I really felt like that worked out for me in the past. And for the most part, I held on to it this year. I don't know that I need as much of that. So we're gonna go ahead and kind of cut that down, focus on a different type of layout for our future log because the calendar part is still really important to me, but a little bit of a different view for that. Now, if we focus on the next part of this worksheet, which is keep or leave behind, this is really just going through our notebook and saying, hey, what worked out well for us, what didn't, and what do we need to do a little bit differently? From a keep perspective, I know that I definitely need to keep my index. That is the most important part of my bullet journal for me and writing things down inside of there. I'm definitely keeping that future log, but updating it a bit with a calendar view. I also need a section for goals, and this year I'm going to be doing things a little bit different. Whereas last year I just focused on work goals in my bullet journal, I want to bring work and home/personal all into one notebook. That's a really big kind of want and need for this notebook as well that I didn't mention, is bringing it all back together versus having things separate. I know that I can do it. It's going to be interesting to see how I maybe manage some of that, especially for bigger collections, but we'll get to that when we get further into our notebook. We're not going to be doing that today though. Really, this is just going to be the initial setup, but I know that I'm kind of planning ahead for that myself. One of my favorite collection pages inside of my journal is the help desk tracker. This is where I write down any tickets or anything that go to the help desk. In my line of work, that's a lot of different things, and sometimes they get lost in email. So creating a collection page for that is going to be really important for us in this notebook as well, and making sure that that comes along because I really do like that page. There are also a few different collection pages that I want to keep track of for myself that I know that I'm going to migrate over because they're just continuing meetings that go on. I have a design operations meeting that I've been doing monthly with a few different friends, and I want to make sure that that stays along with us as we go through the next year. So that'll definitely be moving over, as well as a section for any type of design community notes and activities. I'm a part of a group at work around the design community, and it's really important for me to be able to keep track of all the different conversations. So I know for sure that I want to move that over. The only collection page that I'm not going to move over from my current notebook into my new one is going to be a collection page for my leads meeting. I've moved that completely digital into Microsoft Loop. It works better for me. It works better for the entire team. We all keep collective notes inside of there. So I'm not going to duplicate that work by also writing them down inside their own collection page. More than likely, I'll just keep any notes for that inside of my weeklies and contain it there. And if I do need to reference anything, I know that I have a digital version for that somewhere else. I will be adding some other collection addition pages as we go through, but they're going to be more of a as-need basis versus setting them up in advance. So I'm not going to set them up today, but you'll get a pretty good idea on at least the direction I'm going with those pages and the overall theme. All right, so let's go ahead and crack our bullet journal open and take a look. We have our brand new Hemlock Oak notebook here. Now, I've already gone ahead and I've penciled some of these ideas in here. And one of the really important things is going to be the materials that work. Like I said, everything so far is working really well inside of this notebook and this paper. The only thing that's not is any kind of like really heavy ink. So with this setup, I know that I can kind of use anything that I need to on this. Now, the first page that we're going to set up is going to be our index. The index is where I track all of the main topics and things that are going on inside of my bullet journal. The index is super important, and I've always really appreciated what that does for me and being able to find content faster inside of my notebooks. Now, the one thing that I've done in the past is I used to create like a ton of pages for this because I used to write down every single thing in my index. Even if it was just a weekly, it was what was that week? What are those dates? But no very specific information that I really needed to go back and grab from there. So I'm just trying to get better about that. So in this page layout, I'm just going to give myself this 2 spread. This is a B5 notebook, so there's plenty of space for not just the topics, but multiple page numbers and threading as we go through. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and just break this page into halves, put them into some boxes, and I'll be good to go. One of the materials that I plan on using both for this setup today, but also as I move forward, is going to be this Traveler's little bookmark stencil. I really like the way the letters look, and as I'm going through, I'm just going to use some different things to fill them in. In this case, I'm using the matte Hop gel pens, and I'm just going to go ahead and just color in over top of that stencil to give myself a good header. So like I mentioned, my future logs have taken on a lot of different views over the years. They've gone from a very basic by the book bullet journal future log and eventually morphed into more of like a calendar view, which is what I also used in this past year, but I didn't really find a lot of great use in there. I liked the overall layout and kind of what it did for me, but a few things really stopped me from using it. I know it seems so silly, but the only way that I could fit the full calendar on the page was to turn it sideways. There's just a little bit of a pain in the butt to kind of turn your notebook sideways to read what's there. And I also just found myself using it less and less and less as the year went on. What was important for me is to have the month and the calendar days, because I do reference those often for what's on a weekend or what day of the week is a certain thing, just kind of plan ahead a little bit. So I'm going to keep those in this year's layout, but I'm going to leave open space for any type of notes, events, or things that I'm putting into that future log. So what I've already done inside of here is I've penciled in each of the months and the date, but not every single one because I'm just going to write those in with my pen. So I write the first few days, and then what I do is I just go down the Saturday dates on each of those weeks and then follow up with the last few days. And that way I kind of have a really clear idea of where I'm starting and where it needs to end essentially. Because even after all these years, I still do not remember which months have 30 or 31 days. So I just pencil them in ahead of time, and it's a much safer way to fill out this calendar view. I'm also going to be using these stamps here from Little Black Rabbit Paper. I really like the way that they look, and they fit kind of perfectly into these center spaces that I've done for these calendars. So I'll go ahead and start writing all of the days of the week inside of here and the months, but you don't have to watch me write all of that because we're just going to come right in with that movie magic and everything is magically filled out. Now I can go ahead and spend some time in getting the stamps set up. So I'm going to set up my station here. I have this Crafter's Companion Step cleaning station, which I'm going to spray with a little cleaning solution and just set that off to the side. I'm trying to be better and better with my stamps and just clean them as I go versus forgetting about them or putting them away dirty. My favorite part about this stamp set is the way that this font looks. It kind of looks handwritten, but I know that I can never write it that way. It looks so effortless, and I really love the way it looks though. So all I'm going to do is just go through each of these. I've set the center place on each of these calendars on where to put that center letter, and then I'll just go ahead and stamp all of those down, and then I'll be ready and good to go. I do need a little bit of a visual divider on my pages. This is just something for me. I know where I should end, but sometimes it just looks a little bit nicer. So I have this gray blue ink that's inside of my Tom Studio Lumos here. So I'm going to go ahead and cross the pages and just going to block off the section for the calendar. I have them all at an even spot, even though they don't all end at the same spot for every single month. I'm marking on here where I want that to end, and that gives me the same space underneath each of these months here and the dates and the calendars to put all the events and tasks and things I need to track. The next section is going to be my goals section. So I mostly in the past have used the goals section to focus on things for work because that's where I spend a lot of my time inside of my bullet journal. This year, I do want to create some personal goals for myself as we go through with these. So I'm going to go ahead and use this giant page that we have here and create same section, but for 2 different sets of goals. Now, as I was setting this up and putting in my lines, I accidentally went too far down on my page here. And so we're gonna have to fix that up. I have this Tombow sand eraser, which works really well on ink inside of notebooks, but the problem is that it does kind of take up the paper a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go and find a sticker, and I'm gonna put the sticker over top. I'm gonna lightly try to get away some of that line, not all of it, because I don't wanna put a hole in my page, and then I'll go and take this washi sticker and just stick it over top of there, because that's what stickers are for, to fix mistakes. The next thing I'm gonna do is just add some stamp numbers over to the left-hand side of here. Now, usually I would put a 0 and a 1 as I go through, but there is not enough space. So we're just gonna go ahead and label each of these on here 1 through 7. Now, I don't always have 7 goals, but I like things to be even on this page, and I might need to go that far. Something else I do, I usually have personal and professional goals as well, both at work and at home too. So I might just kind of mix those in there this year, but I have 7 spaces regardless of how many that I have. And if I don't use them all, it doesn't matter. Honestly, I'm just not ready to start figuring out what those are just yet. I need to spend a little bit more time on those. Now, something that I wasn't expecting to have to do this early was already fix mistakes. So as I went through and I started to fill in some of these headers for myself, what I noticed is that this ink in this gel pen was transferring onto my other page when I was writing the letters for the other header. So in this case, I wrote help desk and my notes here, but when I filled in the op section and colored that in, it transferred that onto the other page. At first, I thought that it ghosted or bled through the page on the other side, and I was about to lose my mind because I already did the pen test in the back of this notebook, but once I spent a few extra seconds and really looked at it, I realized, no, it's not bleeding through, it's just transferring. So it's just something I have to remember in the future because I still want to do this. I've already started this theme inside of here, but I don't want this to continue to happen. So again, I'm using my sand eraser and my regular eraser, and I'm just gonna get rid of as much of it as I possibly can. And overall, it works really well. I gotta tell you, that sand eraser is magical. You just have to be careful with not rubbing too hard and taking the paper off and creating a hole. Or again, if I use ink or something else over top of it, it messes things up. So just be aware of it. But since it's up in the header, I probably won't have a problem. All right, the next thing we're gonna set up is this help desk tracker. I absolutely love this help desk tracker for myself, so you can see some of the different pieces that I didn't use. I didn't want to cover up some of the information because it does have some of my team members' personal information here, but I thought about doing the same exact thing. Now, before we do that, I had to create the grid spacing for that page, and I talked about this earlier, but this grid spacing cheat sheet is incredibly important. I've used this in my past notebooks. Now, the difference between this notebook and the other notebook is that it's not exactly the same. The Archer and Olive notebook had 32 boxes across, whereas this Hemlock and Oak only has 31. And then vertically down the page on the B5 for the Archer and Olive was 46, and the Hemlock and Oak has 47. So I'm essentially using the Archer and Olive version as a great starting point, but knowing that I do have to do the math a little bit differently because we have an odd number and I gotta try to figure this out. Now, when I do this type of spacing, I like to use something that I like to call easy math because not everything perfectly is going to work out, but I do have some very specific layouts and grid spacing that I like to use. The first most important one is spreading things out in half, so breaking up 2 different columns. So each of these will be 15 squares wide with 1 square open in between of those to get that. When I want to break things down into thirds, I have to do things a little bit differently, either 10 squares all connected and then I have 1 left over, or I can break them down into 9 squares each with 2 boxes in between. I do the same thing for that horizontal layout, and I break things down into halves, thirds, fourths, fifths, and even sixths. A lot of that for me is done because if I want to set up 5 days going down the week, I can do that, but I'm not going to go down to 7. I don't always track the weekends, at least not specifically on Saturday and Sunday. So if I go to 6 horizontal rows, it's easy enough to just split a Saturday, Sunday in there to track things if I need to. But other than that, I don't need to create anything much larger. So I really create this page just for what I need, and you can kind of do the same exact thing with yours if you like the idea of a grid spacing cheat sheet. Now I'll come back to this and use this every single time that I want to create a new spread. It's just a really great reference page and honestly something I think that everybody should have. So if we go back to the help desk page, now that I've gone ahead and spaced everything out on here, I have 3 columns with 4 rows set up inside of here, and this will give me all the spaces that I need. I thought, hey, since it's called a help desk ticket usually, let's use one of these ticket stamps that I have here from BGM. I'll use VersaFine ink, and I've already kind of spaced everything out to make sure that it fits, so this is perfect inside of here. I'll go ahead and fill up every single one of these, and the way that this space will work out is it has some open space. So I'll usually put the date, I'll put the ticket number, and then I'll put any details below each of those tickets as I go through. Again, because I like to have a little bit of a visual reference on where to stop, I'll go ahead and take this mild liner marker here and just briefly put in like the bottom line of that. And that way I don't go out of the spacing, everything looks nice and even, because it can get a little messy, especially on a really large size page like this. And I'm just trying to keep things looking good. The last thing we need to do is to go ahead and erase all of those little pencil marks. And once I have all that crap all over my page, my favorite thing ever is this little desk vacuum. It sucks everything up perfectly. I don't have to wipe it off and then clean it up later. It's honestly just one of the best things ever. Now, the last thing we're going to set up today is going to be these collection pages. And like I mentioned, I have a lot of them that I tend to create throughout the year, but there's only a few that I'm going to use that are going to start the year off. And I'm going to keep them very, very simple. I've gone ahead and I've marked in the top headers of these using that stencil from before and then utilizing these gel pens, and I've just switched them off between red and blue. With these type of collection pages, I don't know how many pages I might end up needing by the end of the year, and I don't like to waste any pages if I don't have to. So setting up one page just gets me started, and once I run out of space on that page, we'll just find the next available open page, create a very similar header, and then I'll go back to my index and just add the extra pages that are a part of that so I can always easily find the notes when I need to find them. A lot of the work that I have to do in my bullet journal moving forward now is really just filling things in. So my next steps for this, which I'm not going to do here in this video, I'll do these on my own time, will be to go through my calendar for next year and start to call out some specific things that I know I need to keep track of. There's a lot of birthdays, maybe there's appointments that I've made a bit in the future. I also am going to go through my current work bullet journal and take a look at some of the other times throughout the year where I had certain events happen. That could be when mid-year reviews are due. This could be when we have renewals for our specific tools. And I'm going to mark them in here about a month in advance so that I can prepare myself for those times before we get there. That's how I like to use my future log, is really thinking way into the future. I don't know every single date or every single thing. And while I would love for things in my future log to be in sequential order, the reality is I just don't have a way of doing that if I'm planning ahead now versus as I'm going through the year and moving things into my future log later on down the road. So I've just accepted that. I know that. I'm okay with that. It's just something, again, for yourself, you have to figure out how you want to handle that. But for the most part, I think we're going to be good. So this is all of the pages that I've set up to kick off my bullet journal for the new year. We have our index page, which is already starting to get filled out with some of the collection pages that we have. We have our future log, which has a little bit of a different approach than I've taken in the past. We still have that overall calendar page there, but it has space underneath each of those sections to write events, tasks, things that are going to end up coming into our future log in the future. We have our goals page that I set up both for work and also for home. And I'm really excited to tackle this year and start to come up with some new personal and work goals for myself. I love the help desk ticket page so much. This is one of my favorites. I just think it's so fun. And like I said, I use it all the time. And if I need more than this one page, I'll just recreate it. I have all of the measurements. I have the stamps, I have everything that I need. And then I just have the collection pages that I'm going to move over for myself to start the year. And we'll continue to create those pages as we go throughout. Everything else that we're going to do in the new year, we're just going to do as we go along, and maybe we'll do some check-ins. We'll see how this notebook is working out for us. I'm very excited to really kind of get into the paper. It's hard to say right now off of one page, like, oh, all of these pens and fountain pens and everything work great in here. I won't fully know until I'm really writing long form inside of here, using my fountain pens, using a lot of other materials and different stamps and things like that. I'm excited to see how this does. Will it be the end all be all? I don't know, but I'm definitely definitely excited to explore. I love the grid page style layout here too. I have never done a bullet journal with lined grids before, and I'm really excited for that too. So it should be fun, but I'd love to hear from you. What do you think about this new setup? Are we liking the new notebook? Do we like these resource pages? And of course, I'd love to hear from you on certain collection pages that you're bringing with you into the future of your next journal, planner, whatever it might be for the new year. Until next time, friends, I'll talk to you later. See ya.